Hello, TV fans. I am bored now, back with you to talk about the first episode of the new season of The Last of Us. Very much anticipated this one, so this is going to be The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1. It is called Future Days, so we are very much back with Joel, Ellie, this world. We get the introduction of Abby, played by Caitlin Denver, who I know is a massive character in the game also. And I heard this series and possibly the next series, at the very least, is going to cover the second game. Then the second game will probably be split over at least a couple of seasons. Very strong opening episode. I know a lot of it is set up, and I think that tends to happen a lot with season 2 of shows. Drama jumps 5 years and we pick back up with the characters, and things have changed between Joel and Ellie, which is a big part of this episode and the drama. So she is now 19. She's very much starting to explore romantic options, and she, because of some of the history with her and Joel, which is brought up in this episode, there's a line at one point about how, because of the nature of their relationship, their bond and how it started, because she's now an age where his daughter Sarah never got to. She died tragically before reaching 19. Then that is part of the tension. Now, there is a mystery about why they're not really talking, and it's possible there's more to it than just those kind of things, but I appreciated that the episode brought those things up, and it did seem quite a realistic thing, because I know one complaint I've heard is then the way Ellie is acting at times in this episode is more the way you would act when you're 15, and I can see that complaint, but to me these are different circumstances. The way she has been brought up, the way she is raised, the nature of, like I said, how she met Joel and how things started out, because it was very much not a smooth start, and the way she's almost had to grow up ahead of her years. I think it is different, and I do see a lot of consistency with Ellie in this episode. I can see how it is the same girl from season 1. That time she spent with Joel early on, she felt a little bit shackled, and she felt that maybe she couldn't do her own thing. And now, in this new setting and with a new life, she's getting the opportunity to do that. Drama between the characters is so natural, and the direction is so on point, and the way they feed us and introduce us to these new characters and the new status quo, I thought was really well done, and we get a good cliffhanger at the end, and things are set up very well. And personally, I was just very engrossed. Now, it'll be interesting because this is a shorter season. There's only 7 episodes this season, so we'll have to see if the pacing suffers a little bit. It's a very strong introduction to Abby as a character, Caitlin Denver. I know she doesn't get much screen time. She sort of bookends the episode, but the opening scene involving her, where we find out she's got a vendetta against Joel and she wants to see him dead. So she's with a group of characters, and this is set in the past, and they're burying some of their loved ones or people close to them who have been killed. And there's some good examples in this episode. If you're going in blind, if you don't know much about the games, there's some good examples of them setting certain things up and then paying them off, and it's like, okay, that's a little bit of a twist, and that was quite nicely done, because at first, if you don't know the games and you don't know the Abby character, we just find out that she wants to find Joel really badly, and at first you don't know why. And then, because I didn't know if he was like some sort of like family member or just someone from her past, but then we find out then she wants him dead, so she's on a revenge mission, and she says I want it done slowly. And because they're standing over these graves, I guess it might be fair to assume he killed someone close to her. The exciting things about the season could be getting into some of Joel's murkier, darker past, because a lot of his actions in season 1, although at times they were questionable, I think you could see them as being done for like a greater good or to protect Ellie, but it might be interesting to get into some of his more questionable decisions where maybe they didn't have such sincere motives. And I think Caitlin Denver is a great actress. I've enjoyed her in a lot of things. Enjoyed her in Booksmart. I enjoyed her in Unbelievable. She was good in Sick, although that was a little bit melodramatic, but she was good in that show. And she just carries a lot of power, like for such a small actress, and the way she comes across as quite meek at times. She does carry a lot of rage and a lot of power, and she has a real conviction in the way she delivers lines. And this is just a great setup to the episode. And then we jump to 5 years later, and we pick up with Joel, Ellie, etc. In Wyoming. They're now on the ranch that Joel's brother Tommy has settled down on, and we're starting to see the new status quo of this world. But then we bookend the episode with Abby and co. They finally arrive at the ranch, so that's giving you the cliffhanger. Interesting, it's taken them 5 years. I wonder if we're going to get some cutback scenes in the next episode, some flashbacks where we see what exactly has happened to Abby and what her journey has been, and maybe a little bit about the motivation for wanting to kill Joel. Her introduction being short but to the point was really effective, and then there's still time to expand on her in the episodes moving forward, hinting at certain modern themes, like themes to do with immigration, that kind of thing, but it's done in quite a subtle way. It's never really done where it's in your face and they're like shouting the message at you, because Joel has gone back to his roots as like a technician, as like a handy type man, as like a builder, and he is helping to develop this complex, and Tommy's wife wants him to expand it and build more rooms so that they can bring more people in. And we get into the weeds of Joel saying, we need to protect our own first. We need to do this slowly. We don't want to overreach ourselves. But Tommy's wife rightly points out at the end, you were a refugee once, Joel. Like a little bit of a shot in the arm, like remember where you came from. And I just like the niche prodding at what is a big issue right now to do with refugees, and that maybe we should be more welcoming to them, extend our hand to people who are less fortunate than ourselves. Oh, and Ellie actually they're not together very much in the episode. We see them separated from much of the episode. There's just a couple short scenes, and I think that's really effective, because when you've had pretty much all of season 1 with them together, it's actually quite a bold choice to then separate them for most of like the opening episode of season 2, and we pick up with where they are. So talking a little bit about Joel's situation, we find out that he is in therapy, and that his therapist is Catherine O'Hara, which is a great choice because I knew she was in it, and because of the clips I'd seen, I speculated maybe she was going to be in a flashback, like maybe she was going to be an important person to him in the past, like maybe his mother or something, but I was wrong. His therapist, which is great. And this is another example of a really smartly played scene, and it's probably the best scene in the episode, probably because of how good Catherine O'Hara is. Like, she's just got a knack for like stealing small scenes, but also I do like the slow pace of the episode. I do like how things are lingered on, how intimate the direction is. And this scene is a good example of this. But there's also like a misdirect in the scene, and there's a little bit of humour because they come in and we find out then he pays her in weed. He's because he grows his own weed, and once again, that's another like this is a different status quo. They're not using money for things like this. They're using like different alternative ways of payment, and yeah, no, she criticizes the standard of weed. He's like, well, it is winter, so that's pretty funny. Drinks at the therapy, and this is where the episode does some smart things where it sets you up to question it, a question like, because in my mind I was like, is this typical for a therapist to be drinking during a session? Do a good job of explaining it in the next breath, because it turns out her and Joel have a bit of a history, and like she just lays it out there. Then at this point she doesn't want to do it in a conventional way. If I want to drink during my sessions, I'm gonna drink. I've got a lot of shit to deal with. And the reveal is that Joel killed her husband, and she is honest. Like this is almost a cathartic experience more for her than it is for Joel. I know you did it for honourable reasons, or I know there were circumstances, but I just can't get over it. I just can't forgive you. She brings up, this is the 5th session now, and I think you're lying to me, because he brings up the whole issue with Ellie, this character Dina, who Joel has been getting close to, and there's almost been a father-daughter bond developing between them. Something the episode does well in setting up. But then he doesn't have that with Ellie, and he's wondering why he doesn't have it with Ellie. And so this is where they get down to brass tacks, and the Catherine O'Hara character says, you're lying to me. I've just bared my soul to you about my husband and how I can't forgive you. Now it's time for you to tell me the truth. What did you do to her? So this line, I think more than any, implies that there has been something else. It's not just the natural kind of tensions that might develop between a father figure and effectively a 19-year-old daughter. It seems like there was something else. Maybe she later found out the lie that he told about the fireflies. Maybe there is something else and has happened. Because it's a 5-year time jump, you could see a lot of flashbacks. It's a close-up shot. I really like the direction. Joel just says, I saved her life, and walks off. And he's talking about his actions at the end of season 1, of course. But yeah, brilliant scene, brilliant use of Catherine O'Hara, and I'm sure we'll see her at least a couple more times in the season. And it's a great bit of casting. Always great to see her. As I said, she always steals the show in many ways. You get introduced to this character of Dina, a close friend of Ellie at this point, like described as her best friend. And Joel is showing her a few tricks to do with like technicians, how to wire things. And I think I read the scene wrong at first, because I got the impression Dina was into Joel, like maybe had a bit of a crush. And it turns out, because of what happens in the episode, I was probably stretching, but I just read it a little bit as she was a bit taken with him, had a bit of a crush, was flirting a little. Because there's this funny line where like he's asking her something, how would you do this? And she says it's quite a pointed delivery of like, lick it or something, and that did come across as quite flirtatious. So, but because of what happens later, I'm not sure I was on base with that. But it's a nice little scene showing that they do have, at this point at least, a closer father-daughter bond than him and Ellie. A little scene later on with him and Ellie where he offers to fix a guitar, and I think that's something she's gotten from Joel, like playing guitar, but the strings are broken, so he offers to fix it. And it's just like a small scene, because the episode is building to this big New Year's celebration dance thing, which I know is quite a big scene in the games as well. Ellie's training with Tommy, At one point, they're out shooting zombies for like practice, and we see certain things than only a few people, including Tommy, know that Ellie is a moon, and he's telling her not to let on to anyone else, and Ellie is being a little bit of a smartass with that, and she tries to talk Tommy into letting her go on patrol. There's been a previous incident where Ellie has gone out on her own and broken the rules, and that has put her in bad books, and we hear that Joel, because of that incident and looking out for Ellie, has insisted keep her away from patrol, have her do the more safe, boring job, which is like gate duty, and Ellie isn't going to stand for that. And I think there's a couple of things here where the adults, you can say, is like, okay, they're being a bit weak, they're letting her run roughshod, it's a little bit too easy, and some of that is just because you've got to get to the dramatic stuff and you need a way to do that, and it's obviously more interesting for us as viewers if Ellie gets to go out on her own, and naturally that leads to drama and jeopardy. But I think also it's just a sign that Ellie is such a strong-willed character, and that Tommy, compared to Joel, is a bit more passive, and I think you can run roughshod over him a little bit. You can have your way with him in a way you can't really with Joel. Like, Joel would be a lot more firmer and not take so much crap from Ellie. You know, as I said, is a character in the game, and I really like the chemistry between her and Ellie in this episode, and I think Dina is this more like vibrant, like perky, sort of like smart, sort of fast talking character. The actress is good, and I like the contrast to Ellie. It seems like this great foil where, of course, she's the opposite of Ellie, so that naturally plays into Ellie's different vibe, and they sort of bounce off each other very naturally, and I think that's the way it goes down a lot of times with like best friends. So they do feel like very natural best friends, and once again there's a little bit of a twist in the episode because Dina has been seeing one of the trainers, effectively. His name is Jesse, who is sort of 4 or 5 years older than her, but I think the age gap isn't that big a deal. I think Dina is probably, like, she's Ellie's age, so I don't think there's a massive deal with her seeing Jesse, but they keep breaking up, and Ellie is supportive in the episode, saying, you'll get back together, and at one point Jesse says, I'm not so sure, and it turns out there's a reason why, because Dina has also been encouraging Ellie to pursue a relationship, and Ellie says, I've got my eyes on someone else, and it is quite predictable in a way, but it's predictable in a good way, and I think getting to know them in the episode, getting to see their vibe back and forth, then you do buy into their chemistry, so it's quite well done. And of course it turns out then Elle has feelings for Dina. You get more of them when they're on patrol. They find these dead bodies and they pursue it. They pursue it to like some sort of like a building. And once again, against orders, Elle goes in. Like, she's given instructions, but she keeps like finding ways to weasel out of like following them, and her and Dina go into the building. They start exploring. Again, it's good tense horror stuff, and one of the big things of the episode is showing that these creatures are now learning to adapt. They're being smarter, they're finding ways to hide and lurk and then sort of track the humans rather than just going at them full power. He falls through the floor, and Dina is looking for like another way out on the top layer. Good incidental stuff in the background, because at one point she finds a People magazine and starts reading it casually, and then you see the creature scuttering about in the background, and the creature then is under the table. There's a good bit of misdirection where Elle gets up and looks around, and you think she's looking in the direction of the creature, but she's not. The creature is actually on another side under the table and runs out and attacks her and starts biting at her. Of course, Elle is immune, as we know, but it still could have gone quite bad for Elle before she eventually shoots it. I think she shoots it or stabs it, one of the two. But her and Dina get questioned by Tommy and the rest about what went down, and this is where Elle starts telling them about how, yeah, the creature was smart. The creature hid and lurked and waited for me. So just putting it in there to their attention that these creatures are developing, they're getting smarter. It's been 5 years, so I guess that makes sense. And they're obviously critical of them for what they did, for breaking the code, and they scold them, but also this is important information, this New Year's thing. And as I said, we get the brief scene with Joel and Ellie where he's like, I think you should show your face at this thing. So she goes to the dance, and that's where we see, her and Dina are into each other. I think just their flirtation is very well done. The build up to it, and how Dina has the line about, I think people should be terrified of you. Because there's that whole thing about Elle blushing and saying, I don't think anyone here is looking at me. I think they're all looking at you. And it just builds to this place where they share this romantic moment and they kiss. And of course, if anyone's gonna interject, it's gonna be the douche from Person of Interest who plays Simmons, because he always plays this very harsh, sort of bully-like, old-school conservative jerk who, of course, has a problem with two girls kissing, and he gets involved, says, I don't want to see that crap. And this is where things almost turn violent, and Joel steps in and kind of gets the guy away, and this embarrasses Elle, and she lashes out at Joel. It's like, I don't need your fucking help, just get that through your head. And it's a really harsh, sad moment for Joel. Cut to scenes of the fungus growing again nearby, and we then cut to Abby and her troop riding up, and they're now there, and that's the cliffhanger for the episode. So I think the drama is done very well, where the setup is done nicely, and it does a good job of showing the different place the characters are in. But now the fact that we do have this long-standing Joe and Ellie, we're not really talking to each other. But now there's this new threat coming in from the outside, which could put their lives, either one of their lives, particularly Joel's at the moment, in danger. And I think that just adds to the stakes of, okay, we want to see Joel and Ellie come back together. We want to see them make up and work together, and if something bad is going to go down, then maybe it's more important than ever. That's my review of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe. As always, you can be a channel member on 3 different tiers. You can find that information on the channel, on the member part of the channel. Variety of extra perks. Also patreon.com/borednow, and that's just $1 a month, and you get plenty of bonuses on Patreon also. So I'm in a TV catch-up mode because of me going away, so I will catch up with the end of Season 3 of the Yellow Jackets, and also with the White Lotus. I've got a couple more episodes of Season 3 of that, so I will be working my way through that in the coming days and weeks. But thanks for listening. Let me know what you think of this episode of The Last of Us, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.